Mysterious Room. Introduction. Emily Summers had always been a practical girl. At 22, she prided herself on logical thinking, a keen eye for detail, and a staunch disbelief in the supernatural. This skepticism was why she felt no qualms about renting a room in the old Victorian house on the edge of town. The rent was cheap, the location was perfect, and the house, despite its age, had a certain charm. "It's just an old house," she told Clara, her best friend and roommate. Clara, on the other hand, had reservations. She had heard stories about the place, whispers of strange happenings, and the mysterious disappearance of a previous tenant. "It's probably just gossip," Emily reassured her. "People love a good ghost story." The house itself was imposing, with its tall, narrow windows and a turret that jutted into the gray sky like a finger pointing to the heavens. But the most intriguing feature was the sealed room on the third floor. The door, bolted shut with rusted iron chains, had been the source of countless rumors. Some said it held the remains of the original owner, others claimed it was a portal to another world. Emily brushed off the stories with a laugh. After all, she was here to study, not chase shadows. But as the days passed, the house began to reveal its secrets. It started innocently enough. On their first day, Emily and Clara busied themselves cleaning and unpacking. While dusting the hallway outside the sealed room, Emily felt a sudden chill. The air seemed to thicken, and for a moment she thought she heard a faint knock coming from behind the door. "Did you hear that?" Clara asked, her face pale. Emily shrugged, masking her unease. "Probably the wind. These old houses always creak." But the knock came again that night, just as Emily was drifting off to sleep. This time it was louder, more deliberate. She sat up in bed, her heart pounding. "It's nothing," she whispered to herself. But deep down, she knew better. Over the next week, Emily began having vivid nightmares. She dreamt of a woman's voice, soft and pleading, calling for help from behind a locked door. The voice grew more desperate each night, accompanied by the sound of scratching and sobbing. When Emily confided in Clara, her friend looked genuinely concerned. "Maybe we should leave," Clara suggested. "This place doesn't feel right." But Emily refused. "It's just stress. Midterms are coming up. I'll be fine." However, the nightmares persisted, and soon they began to bleed into her waking hours. She would hear whispers when the house was silent, see fleeting shadows in her peripheral vision. And always there was the room, its door a silent, ominous presence at the end of the hall. One rainy afternoon, while rummaging through the attic, Emily discovered an old rusted key hidden in a wooden box. It was heavy, its surface etched with strange, intricate symbols. "Do you think this—" Clara's voice trailed off, her eyes darting toward the sealed room. Emily nodded. "There's only one way to find out." Despite Clara's protests, Emily decided to use the key. She felt an inexplicable pull, a compulsion to uncover the truth. The lock clicked open with an eerie finality. Emily pushed the door, and it creaked on its hinges, revealing a small, dimly lit space. The room was empty except for a rocking chair and a tall, ornate mirror leaning against the wall. As she stepped inside, the air grew icy. The door slammed shut behind her, and she spun around, panic rising. "Clara!" she shouted, banging on the door. But no sound escaped her lips. She turned back to the room, her eyes drawn to the mirror. At first, it reflected only her own terrified face. But slowly, shapes began to emerge. Shadowy figures writhed and twisted, their hollow eyes staring directly at her. "You shouldn't have come," a voice hissed from the shadows. Clara managed to break the door open after what felt like hours. Emily stumbled out, pale and shaking. But something was different. Her once bright eyes were dull, her voice flat and emotionless. Over the next few days, Emily became increasingly withdrawn. She spoke in whispers, often to no one in particular. She refused to eat, barely slept, and seemed to spend hours staring at her reflection in the mirror. Desperate, Clara began researching the history of the house. What she discovered was chilling. Decades ago, the house had belonged to an artist named Victor Harland, known for his obsessive jealousy. When he suspected his wife of infidelity, he locked her in the very room Emily had entered. She was never seen again. Some believed her spirit lingered, bound to the room by Victor's malice. Determined to save her friend, Clara sought help from an old grimoire she found in the local library. The book detailed rituals to banish restless spirits and seal cursed spaces. Late one night, Clara confronted Emily, who was now fully under the spirit's influence. Emily resisted, her voice unnaturally deep, her movements jerky and puppet-like. With a mixture of courage and desperation, Clara performed the ritual. The room trembled, the air filled with screams and cries of anguish. Finally, the mirror shattered, and a deafening silence followed. Emily collapsed, unconscious but alive. The next morning, the house felt lighter, as if a dark cloud had lifted. Emily recovered slowly, but the experience left her deeply scarred. She and Clara moved out, vowing never to return. As they drove away, Emily glanced back at the house. For a brief moment, she thought she saw a figure standing in the window of the sealed room, watching them leave. Moral curiosity can be a dangerous thing. Some doors are meant to remain closed, some mysteries unsolved. The allure of the unknown may be tempting, but the consequences of disturbing what lies beyond can be devastating.